All right, my friends, coming up on News and Views, Alaska, Africa, two worlds far apart, but two worlds coming together. We'll have the details coming up next. Welcome back to News and Views on your Alaska Link. The age of connectivity is here. The world has become a lot smaller. However, despite that connectivity with the internet and social media, places like the Sudan are still a mystery to many of us. Joining us now to talk about the human crisis in the region and what Alaskans can do is Program Director of the Alaska-Sudan Medical Project, Jason Hahn. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in.
You got it.
Give us an overview of the project and how it got started.
Well, the Alaska-Sudan Medical Project got started in 2008 when a local doctor, Jack Hickel, went over to South Sudan at the invitation of another Alaskan doctor, Jill Seaman, who's been in South Sudan for over 20 years, 23 years. And she is really, doing healthcare at the most primal, basic levels. This is one of the most impoverished regions in the world. So when Jack went over at her invitation and saw what she was doing, he realized, I need to do more than just come over for a couple weeks a year and help out in her, in her basic clinic there. She really needs infrastructure. She needs support. She needs clean water for, for the people so they don't continue the cycle of disease. They're starving there. There's constant famine. They have no food. They rely on food aid quite a bit.
Now, when you're talking basics, I mean, really break it down, you're right. Basic food. Basic water, basic sanitation, things that we take for granted in South Sudan. They're just worried about survival at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They don't have, they don't have any running water. They don't have toilets. They struggle to get food on the table.
Right.
And that's where we want to help.
Well, if you look at some of the villages, the challenges, what would be the biggest challenge that they face?
That the locals face?
At the locals face.
It's just that lack of infrastructure. South Sudan has been at war for 40 years until recently.
Right.
And so they just, the cards are stacked against them. They've been in such conflict that they haven't had the opportunity to develop these.
And they've had two civil wars, perhaps still warring. I mean, even though South Sudan is recognized as its own nation now, still there are factions that are still at war.
Correct? Yeah, there is still conflict, and the North is still, doing some incursions into the South. There's still some local conflict. I think it just takes time to kind of, get over that kind of conflict.
And you talk about when Dr. Hickel went over there, he says, I got to do more. In Alaska, one of the things that we're seeing, especially in Anchorage, a large Sudanese refugee population. A lot of people might not notice that, but we see it. We have kids in school, and we see a lot of Sudanese coming to Alaska. A lot of people might think that's a strange connection. Are you guys in touch with the local Sudanese community?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard there's 800 or 1,000 local Sudanese in Alaska. We have one local Sudanese that's on our board, and so we do try to stay in touch. There is that connection not only in Africa and Sudan, but here in Anchorage, which that's really unique and special also.
Well, has that separation of the North and South done anything to make the mission a bit easier?
It has. I mean, logistically, it's getting a little easier. It's still very difficult to work over there. But, security is less of a concern, so we feel more comfortable bringing over our Alaskan volunteers. Almost all Alaskan, we're an Alaskan-based organization, so all of our funds and donations come from Alaskans. Our volunteers are mostly Alaskans, and so it has made it easier for that
Well, let's talk about the village. Give people an idea of the village that you guys are working in.
The name of the village is Old Fangak. It's in a place called Jonglei State, far northeast corner of South Sudan, on the Nile River. It's probably, they're living the same kind of life they have for the last 1,000 years. Very remote, very isolated. So, they don't get a lot of the government services and support that there is. But it's basic. They live in small mud huts. They try to grow and fish as much as they can with the limited resources they have.
It's amazing. If there's one thing Alaskans know about, it's isolation, and we tend to help each other when we're in need. So I think this is a natural connection between Alaska and Sudan.
I think so. You know, the people that go over, that really kind of strikes a chord with them. You know, they see what the people are doing there. You know, Dr. Jill works half the year in Bethel, and I think a lot of the same kind of conditions with the isolation and, you know, somewhat lack of infrastructure. Not the same level, of course. It's similar, but yeah.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk more about the people of South Sudan and, despite their hardships, what they actually look forward to. Okay, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to News and Views. We're continuing our conversation with project manager of the Alaska-Sudan Medical Project, Jason Hahn. Jason, tell me about what medical services you guys are delivering to the people of, it's Fangak, Old Fangak.
Old Fangak, yes.
Where's New Fangak?
Yeah, yeah.
But talk about some of the medical services that Dr. Jill and Dr. Hickel and what you guys are delivering.
Sure. Yeah, Dr. Jill's been there a long time, like I said, over 20 years. So she's really providing all the basic medical services there. Really focuses on tuberculosis. There's a disease called Kala Azar. There's endemic to that region. That it's like 95% fatal if they don't treat it. Treatment is 99% effective. Is the good news on that. You know, we're doing immunizations. It's something things we take for granted. Measles vaccinations, childhood vaccinations. They just don't have there. I mean, so a large percentage of the kids can die from measles.
Yeah.
Tuberculosis. I think it's of the 4 to 10-year-old kids, 65% are positive for tuberculosis, and we've had a tuberculosis problem in Alaska before, and we were able to, you know, get it under control. And so these are the basic services that we can offer.
Do you know what the life expectancy of an adult is there?
I think it's 42 in South Sudan.
That's amazing, isn't it? 42 years old.
42 years old.
That's unbelievable. I mean, and we're talking about, I mean, even immunizations, like you said, vitamins for children. They don't even have vitamins, and you could prevent so many things. I mean, blindness. A lot of kids, because they don't have vitamin K or whatever vitamin they need to have strength even to survive. Now again, bringing vaccinations and vitamins and medical services, it's not cheap. And you guys are doing this, it's totally funded by the private sector. How can people in Alaska help? How can we donate to the cause?
You donate directly to us. You can go on our website and donate that way. We have a lot of people, you know, mail us, or we have fundraisers and people come and support us. But it is, you know, 90% funded by Alaskans, individual Alaskans, who really it touches them, and they want to help this cause. And the great thing is, you know, we're a small grassroots organization, so almost all of our dollars goes directly to help the people on the ground.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you go to alaskasudan.org and you could donate. It's very easy. It's just a couple of clicks away and you're donating. And are you guys always looking for volunteers? How does that process work?
Absolutely. Almost everything we do there is either through we're training the locals so they can become self-sufficient, but that involves Alaskans coming over. From all walks of life, not only health professionals, we've had construction guys that are very helpful in building that infrastructure and teaching them basic skills like welding and construction and well drilling. And so now, for instance, a guy that we trained in welding has a little welding shop in the village. Now he can do, you know, some of these projects on their own. So we wanted to help them become sustainable, and so, you know, they don't have to rely on us. But any Alaskan can come volunteer. It's usually the dry season over there is when our volunteers come over, so that's November to March, basically. And, you know, we have a dozen or 2 dozen sometimes volunteers come over every year.
Have you been to the village?
I have, yeah.
And what was your first impression when you actually got there, as opposed to being here, seeing it from afar?
There's a lot of dirt.
A lot of dirt.
You know,
yes.
it's basic. So they're living in mud huts. It's right on the Nile River. It's very flat. It's actually the world's largest swamp, or one of the world's largest swamps. When we're there, it's a dry season, but it's you know, it's bleak. But I think there's a new hope coming, and part of that is it's a new country now, and part of they see that people from halfway across the world come over and care about them and are helping them.
That's right.
And it affects them, and they tell us that. They've seen a lot of other, non-governmental aid organizations come and go because it's so logistically difficult there.
Right.
But Alaskans are crazy enough to actually stay there and stick with it.
That's right.
And so I think it really, people have expressed to us that they feel hopeful, more hopeful about the future.
Well, Jason, best of luck to you, alaskasudan.org. We'll keep in touch, okay?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for joining us today. It's time for us to take a short break. We'll have more with you. Stay with us.